into the country houses, and so every parish should have a storyteller or a saenachai, and he'd come along to the house parties, which were called céilí houses or rambling houses. This is where everyone rambled at night before the whole pub culture even started, like, and the pub culture actually developed from that. But they go into a neighbour's house and you have a bit of music and a bit of dancing and a story at the fire. And so a storyteller would always sit beside a fire and he'd be smoking his pipe or whatever. And I'll give you my own favourite story from Eamon Kelly's repertoire, because it ties in nicely to the old traditions as well. And I do it the way that he used to do it, so that I can become a different person. It's always easier to be a different person. So it's the kind of Kerry accent that he had. There was this man one time living in the townland. If you don't understand me now, stop me and I'll go slower. But I try to speak clearly anyway. There was this man one time living in the townland of Lyre, and his name was Gortine. He was alone there in the house, for he never married. He was too shy when he was young, and too old when he got the courage, like myself. He had a great liking for mushrooms, and he'd be out at the crack of dawn, late June, walking barefoot through the dewy grass. This morning, as he was going along, what happened on his toe to strike a bunch of growing rushes, and a little gold ball hopped out to him, pure gold. He picked her up and he put it in his pocket and brought it home. So would yourself. For wasn't it a nice little nest egg to have? For all the world, that was the time he had a stonemason in building the new chimney. And in old-fashioned hearts at the time, you'd have a little square cubby hole left where the woman in the house could keep her canch or a tea, or the man his pipe and tobacco. Do you know, says Gortine, thinking fast, do you know, says Gortine, that cob machine is only a gathering place for dust, and my advice to you is to close it up entirely. So, while the stonemason was dressing down a square flag for the mouth of the cubby hole, what did Gortine do when he buried the gold ball in a lump of mortar and hid it in the back of the hole, so to be safe and he'd know where to be? Wasn't he deep? As the old woman said, you'd ate a bag of salt before you'd know a Kerryman. The stonemason placed the square flag in position and plastered it over to match existing walls. In a while's time, Gortine went out to the haggard to do a bit of business. You know, this was before indoor plumbing. This is very far back. He went out to the haggard anyway, and what did he see there? Only a lovely young girl. What's your name again?
For real?
Yes.
Lizzie.
Lizzie.
Just make up something.
And what did he say there? Only a beautiful young girl. He asked her who she was, and she said she was Lizzie O'Sullivan from the county of Kerry. And she was going in service to a big farmer below in Shanagolden. That was the best she was running in that part of the world, says she. But I'm afraid I'm going to be off my road. You are, says Gortine. No, do you know, I'm very short-handed here, being alone in that, and if you come working to me, I'll give you the same wages you're expecting below in Shanagolden. There wasn't one other word said, and no better woman ever put her foot inside a man's door. To bake, this was before Germaine Greer and Women's Lib, by the way. To bake, to boil, to wash, and so, Fete, she left the mark of her hand on that house. And indeed, it needed it, no more than my own. But there was one thing. If Gortine ever came in unexpected from the fields, he'd always find her rummaging on the top of the dresser, along the thatch, or behind the bin. And here she was, this day, and she'd go over the attic with the tin trunk sideways, and she'd go in through the contents. Now, wasn't it funny that Gortine didn't connect it with what we're thinking of? He did not, but he had something else on his mind. Sure, if time came, that was when people got married long ago, because they couldn't get married in Lent. And, you know, it was younger Gortine was getting. And there was no day passed that he didn't peg on the collar and tie, mind you. First time it was ever seen to happen, the collar and tie. They were sitting one day by the fire talking, and Gortine said, well now, Lizzie, you can't help but know the extent of my property here. And it isn't like another place, you'd have no relations to be dealing with. So, will you marry me? Not at the moment, she said, and placing her, not at the moment, mind you, and placing her hand that way down my shoulder, she said, you must have patience. That's what you must have. Gertine curved his tongue, though it was hard for him, and, reaching above him for his fiddle, he played to her a tune. Her limbs were complete and she neatly clothed in green. Amalabo quails a belling boro village mean. And he knew by her gazing that she played a hide and go seek. Phaeton, she remained on in the house with him after that, and anyone staying in that place and keeping their 2 eyes, or in my case, their 4 eyes open, could see that she was still searching. She went from the house, I'll try and speed up now because the food you go. She went from the house into the out offices, and from the out offices into the open. And every loose stone she turned, even the rusty bucket with the dock leaf growing up through the broken bottom, did she kick that sideways to see what was under it. She tried every hole and corner, but as the days lengthened into spring, the colour left her cheeks, and she pined away, until she was only a bare shadow of the lovely girl that stood in the haggard the June before. Everything that could be done was done, but in spite of all, she died. Gertine waked her the same as if she was one of his own, and in wakes at that time, saving your presence, the corpse to be laid out up on the kitchen table. The wake would last for 3 whole days, and every night the house to be full. The first night, coming up to midnight, what did I hear? Only the saddled horse galloping into the yard outside. The door burst open, and in walked a tall man of pale appearance. He walked up and stood over the corpse and said, meaning, did you get that thing you were searching for? The dead girl sat both upright on the table and said, I did not a sign of it, and fell back dead. Cold sweat stood out in every forehead as the stranger went out the door. I'm telling you, no one went home after the rosary that night. They held on, and when dawn broke, they were so drowsy and upset, and Trina Kayla, of course, that they thought it was how they dreamt it, and no more was said. But when the same thing happened the following night, the men put their heads together. As I said, there was no such thing as consulting females in those times. They were very primitive. And one of the men was for going with first light down to the presbytery, to the PP, the parish priest. The wrong move, says Gertine, the wrong move. For all that will come out of that is another sermon about drink at wakes. And it could happen. What will we do, so, says they? Here we have a riddle that we can't unravel. Well now, says Gertine, Malachy Donal is known to every one of you here. From his talks with the old people, he can't but have an inkling into things. He was a long way on the road to ordination. Sure, the man could light a candle on the altar by the dint of reading. Malachy Donal was seen the next day, and he said, I'll be along to that wake tonight. Free drink and snuff, of course. Why wouldn't they come? Came the night, and there he was, sitting amongst the men in the kitchen. When, coming up to 12 o'clock, they had the horse in the yard outside, the door burst open, and in walked the same man of the 2 nights previous. He walked up again over the corpse and said, Did you get that thing you were searching for? I did not a sign of it, she said, and fell back dead. The stranger moved to go. Now lads, says Malachy Donal, and standing between the stranger and the door, he held up his hand and he said, I command you to give an account of the commotion you have created in this house for the last 3 nights running. Ah, said the stranger, I was waiting for someone to ask me that. I'm not one of ye. I'm from the other world. Our game there was hurling, and we played it in that field below. But we've no game now, and all because of that girl lying there. Her job was to stand on the sideline and watch the ball going wide. But she neglected her duty and lost her golden ball. And there'll be no peace in this house till we get it. Where's the spawn hammer, says Gertine, racing around the kitchen. He found it, and smashing in the flag, he took out the golden ball and threw it to the stranger. he caught it and rubbed the murder off it on the sleeve of his coat until it glistened. He says, this is it, our hurling ball. And motioning to the dead girl, he said, come on, we'll be going now. You're going, says Malachi, but she's not. Or do you mean to stand there and tell these innocent people that any girl that stayed so long in this house, where she was every day in contact with the fire, is one of ye? Isn't she a changeling? She is, says the ferryman. Don't you know we have to have a go-between? Well, says Malachi, I command you to clean the cloud from her brain and to restore her to life and to her former beauty. Well, the Joey man's face blackened with the dint of bad stuff, but he muttered some magical words and flicked his thumb in the air, and there was a flash of light and a roar of thunder, and like that, the dead girl hopped off the table and stood there every bit as lovely as she had been in the hangar the June before. The stranger was gone, for they heard the horse knocking sparks out of the flags in the yard outside. Gurteen was the first one over to the girl's side and taking her by the two hands please, and taking her by the two hands he said, well now Mary, you're a free woman now, and I suppose you'll be going back to your own people. And then the two of us were happy here in this house for a time, and I made bold to ask you a certain thing one time while you were under the spell. Ask me again, says she, and see what'll I say. Wasn't she bold? Ask me again and see what'll I say. He asked her again, and she said she would. And what began as a wake ended up as a wedding. There was gaiety where grieving was, music where mourning was, singing where queening was, and the rafters rang until the sun peeped in the window. That's my story, and if there's a lie in it, it wasn't I put it there.